Flanked by his wife Mate and grandchild Wakisa Kavaye, Finance and National Planning Minister Situmbeko Musokotwane firmly clasped the iconic copper briefcase containing the national budget speech. With measured steps, Dr. Musokotwane ascended the grand concrete staircase of the National Assembly. In his address, the Finance Minister said the proposed national budget was pegged at 253 billion kwacha, a 36 billion kwacha increase from the 217 billion kwacha for 2025.
I propose to spend a total of 253.1 billion kwacha, or 27% of GDP. This will be financed from domestic revenues of 206.5 billion. In other words, almost 82% of the budget will be financed by our own efforts. Madam Speaker, grants from corporate partners will be 12.1 billion, or 4.8% of the total budget, and the balance of 34.5 billion, or 3.7% of GDP, will be financed through domestic and external borrowing.
Dr. Musokotwane says the budget is anchored on key macroeconomic objectives designed to sustain growth and restore stability.
A, attain real GDP growth rate of 6.4%. B, reduce inflation to the 6 to 8% target band. C, maintain gross international reserves above 4 months of import cover. D, increase domestic revenue to at least 22.3% of GDP. E, reduce fiscal deficit to 2.1% of GDP. And F, limit net domestic borrowing to 2.3%.
And the Finance Minister also said government has created several multi-facility economic zones to spur value addition and job creation.
We have ceramic factories in the Lusaka M-Phase. We have steel factories in the Lusaka M-Phase. We have a starch factory in the Lusaka M-Phase. We have a milk processing factory in the Lusaka M-Phase. We have copper rods. We have electric cables. We have conductors, pharmaceutical products, all happening today in the Lusaka multi-facility economic zone. Madam Speaker, the Jiangxi multi-facility economic zone in Chivombo. This has also attracted investment in excess of 128 million. What do you see there, Madam Speaker? In the Chivombo multi-facility economic zones, batteries are being manufactured, batteries are being recycled, copper cables are being manufactured.
And Dr. Musokotwane reviewed that the country's export earning increased to $8.8 billion as of August 2025, compared to $7.2 billion in the same period in 2024. Dr. Musokotwane further proposed the waiving of tax on equipment used to assemble tipper trucks and electric vehicles to promote assembling of the same in Zambia.
I propose to remove customs duty on complete knockdown components. I propose to remove customs duty on complete knockdown components for the assembly of motor vehicles, including tippers, electric vehicles, tricycles, motorcycles, truck trailers, and tractors. Madam Speaker, watch the space, because we are doing this so that these items can be manufactured locally in Zambia.
Dr. Musokotwane also proposed the increase of excise duty on single-use plastics from 30% to 100%. As the Finance Minister wound up his presentation, he bemoaned the status quo, where most people in the informal sector are contributing less to national revenue through tax collection. He says the budget will attempt to change the narrative. Masauso Mukwayaya, ZMBC News, Lusaka.
Wonderful day that the Lord has made. It's Tuesday, 30th September 2025. Today we are reviewing that national budget, a 253.1 billion, about $10.5 billion in that budget. Where will the money come from? Honorable Musokotwane is telling us that up to over 80% will be sourced locally. Well, that would be a milestone. But you have an economy that probably is not doing well, a taxpayer that is seriously stressed, and you are relying on a small group of taxpayers. We haven't broadened our tax base. You have a lot of people outside the tax brackets. Then you have entities like the mining sector that should provide proper contribution to our national budget, and their contribution is minimal. Sometimes even other sectors and subsectors provide more money to our national budget than a sector that provides up to 70 to 80% of our national exports every year. And this is a $7-8 billion sector. But what's its contribution to our national budget, to our GDP every year? And these are some of the matters we'll be discussing. I'm privileged to host my dear brother Lunte MP and former Minister of Transport and Communication and a vibrant Member of Parliament, Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. He has been on this platform and is back today to specifically speak to the national budget. Let me just bring him on. How are you?
Emmanuel, I'm very well, thank you so much. And how are you?
Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, how are you?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you very clearly.
I'm very well. Oh, nice. I'm very well, thank you so much. And how are you?
No, we're very well. We're very well. And welcome back to this debate.
Good day. Good day and good evening, depending on where you are watching us from.
Yeah, the issue of the budget, the national budget. Before we get to there are two matters that I want to bring to your attention, and I think of great concern to Zambia. Today there was an incident. Tonse Alliance, to which the Patriotic Front belongs, and the Patriotic Front is an anchor party in Tonse Alliance, according to the source and national documents that you signed, called for a meeting, and this meeting today didn't end up well. We saw police come to that meeting. We saw party cadres identified from the PF Secretariat come and disrupt that meeting. From the onset, before I even get your views, I felt very, very sad. First of all, it's a pity that we are discussing in-house matters here on such a public platform. But our people deserve sometimes, when they see two PF leaders in the house and there's something that occurred, they would like to just hear our views. We may not go into details. My initial reaction, first of all, when I learned of this meeting, I said the meeting is illegal, it should be called properly, and I tried to speak to both parties that we, at this stage, 10 months away from elections, we should conduct ourselves better. A meeting should have unanimity by all leaders, by procedures and structures of whatever governs us, in this case, the Tonse Alliance constitution. Secondly, when the meeting attempted to take place, we saw the disruption from both party cadres from the PF and the police. And for me, I did a write-up on my page, and I said this was failure of leadership. The meeting should not have taken place, in my view, until it was legally called, legally constituted, whatever the differences the leaders are having, because that's what leadership is all about. Secondly, whoever sent our cadres, party cadres from the Secretariat to go and disrupt that meeting, again, are not learning from our history, where we are severely punished in 2021 for what appeared to be thuggery, political violence, or or the use of terror to resolve issues. So for those 3 items, for me, I expressed concern. The third one was the issue of the list. I've just dismissed it, and for me, it doesn't deserve any further attention. But you are the man on the ground, and you were at the meeting. Let me just hear your views. It's not who's right or who's wrong, but I'm just getting your reflections.
Okay, so thank you so much. Although the network is pretty bad, for some reason, I've not been able to pick everything that you've had to submit regarding the incident that took place today. But if I were to comment generally, I would say that the issue about the convening of the meeting, as well as the attendance to the meeting, I already took a position. I think we discussed on a leadership platform where some people's views were that we should not attend that meeting because it was not properly convened, and I took a different view. My view was that we needed to attend that meeting in order to resolve the leadership issues, even as they pertain to convening of meetings and chairing of meetings. Today presented a very strong opportunity for us as leaders in Tonse to iron out those misunderstandings and reconcile and be able to move forward so that everybody would have become clear in terms of what their position is and what they are able to do and what they are not able to do. But that meeting was disrupted, and of course, at a later stage, it was reconvened somewhere, and at that point, I was already very committed with preparation for this particular interaction, so I could not attend the one that took place in the afternoon. I should have been there. Regarding the incident to do with the youths, I think that it all speaks about the quality of leadership, because the young people are supposed to be harnessed. We are supposed to utilize their energy in the right way. We are supposed to direct them and direct them in the right way. So when you wrongly direct young people, that is leadership failure in my view. And I do think that if those youths were directed, whoever directed them was grossly wrong, and that they didn't apply themselves in the manner they should. Democracy, as it should be known, should be a battlefield for ideas. We must negotiate our views. We should be able to ensure that our people listen to us and they buy into our thinking and imagination. In the absence of negotiating your views, you are likely going to, stay in our country. I think that it was poor on the part of the youths, but more so on those who could have directed them, if indeed they were directed.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just had to wear the headsets to ensure that I could hear you clearly. Yeah, there could be some challenges of network, but I hope that we'll overcome them as we proceed. There is another matter of concern, Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya.
Okay, for some reason I can hardly hear you. I don't know if you are able to hear me.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me, sorry. Before we delve into the issue of the national budget, there is a special sitting of Parliament that's taking place on Thursday, I think 2nd or 3rd October, where the Speaker of the National Assembly has called for this special session. But there are serious concerns. Number one is that the Parliament is now in committees to review the budget according to the new rules that you set for yourselves in the new standing orders and in the amendment to the Budget and Estimate Act of 2020. Parliament is supposed to be sitting in portfolio committees, but we understand that there is a special sitting that has been called for Thursday, and there are speculations that the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Executive want to bring two items. Number one, the ratification of judges that have been employed, in a process that is not clean. Number two, the issue of Bill 7. We understand that government is willing to bring Bill 7. Have you heard anything about this matter, and what is your reflection?
Okay, let me start by asking Ambassador if you are able to hear me, because as you were asking the question, we could hardly connect. But I just heard that you are asking in view of the urgent business to be considered on the 2nd of October, which is Thursday, by the National Assembly of Zambia. Yes, of course, after the presentation of the budget policy statement by the Honorable Minister of Finance, which was last Friday, the National Assembly, they adjourned in order to go into the various committees to consider the sector budgets. Now, the Speaker did announce that the House should reconvene on the 2nd of October, which is on Thursday, to consider urgent business. And immediately the Speaker made that announcement. I tried to apply my imagination, and I was saying there's absolutely no way urgent business can be predetermined. Because for the Speaker to say last week that there is going to be urgent business next week, then it was clear that the Speaker knew the business which was coming. And so that was totally an agenda item. And in my view, that business is not it is something that has been pre-planned, pre-choreographed, and that what we're going to have is the will of the UPND government coming to the National Assembly of Zambia, and not the will of the people. But let me just comment briefly about Bill 7, which have been informed is part of the business that may be considered on the 2nd of October, which is Thursday, day after tomorrow. Bill 7 is already in the National Assembly of Zambia. It has already gone through the first reading, and it was referred to a committee. And then the Constitutional Court declared the process that was undertaken to come up with Bill 7 as unconstitutional. The Constitutional Court did not declare Bill 7 as unconstitutional, but it the process that government used to arrive at Bill 7, that it was an unconstitutional road. The correct road would constitute broader consultations. Government needed to consult on a broad basis. And to do that, a government was supposed to formulate, competent structures to undertake the consultations nationwide on its behalf before they could craft the constitutional amendment bill. But now, for the fact that that road was unconstitutional, it means the bill is unconstitutional. And so instead of deferring the bill, as the case was, we promoted the idea that government needed to withdraw that bill, because the bill was literally unconstitutional. If the Constitutional Court is telling you that the method you used to come up with this bill was unconstitutional, you are being told that the product of the method is as well unconstitutional. But because of exclusive cognizance, the court did not want to be seen as interfering with the process in the national. And so what we had was for them to speak about a process for which they were competent, that is a court. But here we are. UPND government is going to bring back that bill to the National Assembly of Zambia, and I think it's going to constitute that urgent business. And the Zambians should ask some questions. This is a bill that was widely condemned by the ordinary people, condemned by civil society, condemned by a number of members of parliament, including myself, condemned by lawyers, condemned by professional bodies, condemned by the church. But it is coming back to the assembly. What is the consultation that UPND has done? Just a few days ago, they gathered chiefs at Mulungushi International Conference Center, and from what we know, they never even discussed Bill 7, but I hear one chief raised the resolutions after the meeting had finished, and he tried to communicate that they resolved to support delimitation. This is a delimitation is going to affect the budget as has been laid on the table by the minister. Because as you know, delimitation entails more expenditure to governance structures. And you already have a budget which has not provided for that delimitation. But on the other hand, you are pushing for Bill 7, which will bring about delimitation and other, what you are calling proportional representation, without making a financial provision. So already, the UPND government is saying they have no intentions of achieving the objectives of the current budget. This current budget is rhetoric, it is just a campaign, and there's little in it, as we'll be able to discover when we go into it in detail.
I'm glad that you've raised the issue of Bill 7 and what we are doing, what government may be doing to bring it back on this special session. All eyes should be on this special session on Thursday. Let's come to the national budget. What's your reflection? 253 billion, and it says over 80% will be raised locally. Speak to that.
Ambassador Mwamba, thank you so much. I think it may be right for me to make comments on the budget because, as you know, this is where my training lies. This is where my experience lies. I've done a lot of work around these numbers. So I am pretty happy to make my reflection on it. The first thing I would like to bring to your attention is that before the minister presented this policy statement on the budget on Friday last week, the president came to the assembly and he spoke to us. Some of the things that, a few things that the president referred to were repeated in the national budget address. Now, according to the president and indeed the Minister of Finance, over the period that they have been in office, the economy has been growing, on average 5.2% per annum. That is the expansion of the GDP year on year, average 5.2%. I thought about that, and here is my comment. What does growth in GDP mean to a nation and to a people? I think that when the GDP grows, then you can be able to stimulate, or you can be able to create more opportunities for jobs. You are able to create more opportunities for business, and the welfare of the people is improved. That is what I expect out of the growth. Now, if your growth has been decent for the past 4 years, and in fact you expect it to grow by over 6% in 2026, why is there so much suffering in our country? Why is there so much joblessness? Why are there no business opportunities? And the budget, this budget, Ambassador, is clear about these things I'm talking about. This was the budget address that the minister read. If you go into this budget, and I'll speak very, very clearly, paragraph 22 of this budget, the minister said, Madam Speaker, the outstanding payments for suppliers of goods and services increased by a modest 3.3 billion to 84.1 billion kwacha in December 2024. What this means is that we have 84.1 billion kwacha worth of services, products and services that businesses have rendered to government and government has failed to pay. So government is holding this money for the businesses for our country. Now, if you go to, to the expenditure by function by government, in 2026, this is a 2026 budget, government is planning to dismantle arrears. These are the arrears. You remember you have 84.1 billion kwacha, and your plan to dismantle in 2026 is just 4.6 billion. Now, what does this mean, and what should it mean to anybody listening? It means government has received goods and services from people worth 84.1 billion. And in their plan, they sat in cabinet to plan that out of this 84.1 billion, we are going only to pay 4.6 billion. What are you telling those businessmen and women who supplied to government? You are saying that if you borrowed to render your services to us as government, we don't care. Your collateral will be foreclosed. If you used the only house you have as collateral to borrow, we don't care, that house may be taken away and you go to renting. If you use the only car you may have, we don't care, that car will be taken away, and after that your children will be walking to school and you also be getting on minibuses going to work. If your small business is going to collapse, we don't care about your employees, let them lose jobs. This is what government is literally saying. And if this is what government is saying, then that growth of 5.2 per annum or on an average, what is it doing to this economy? It's doing completely nothing. But what you're going to hear is that the UPNG supporters will go straight to talk about the 40 million kwacha CDF per constituency, which translates to how much? 6.2 billion for the whole country in 2026. Now, this 6.2 billion, I can assure you it is less than the difference between 84.1 billion and the 4.6 billion. And that should worry people. You remember, Ambassador, the last time we had a conversation, I was saying UPNG has mastered this art of misleading people. Because for them, what matters are small numbers, small numbers. The big significant issues will never be talked about. Nobody in the UPND will bring about these arrears because they are embarrassing. They show that there is no vision, there is no support for the people, no support for businesses, and they won't talk about it. But instead, they will be talking about the CDF, which is just 6.2 billion. Your question,
there, Honorable,
centered
on CDF, we've always said this is something, a fund of about 3% in relation to the national budget. You can't develop a country on 3% of your national budget. So whatever song they sing about CDF, it's so minuscule in comparison to what is required to develop our country. Secondly, the minister is saying that he will raise revenue for the national budget. First, he will do borrowing, I think up to 34 billion. Then he will rely on loans, grants, and then taxes, both direct and indirect taxes. This is where I find that he may fail to raise the $10.5 billion that he's looking for. First of all, you've had a major shift where the United States has withdrawn up to $600 million of contribution they would contribute to the health sector. That is no longer available when they abolished US aid. And we don't know how soon the US will come around to come and support African nations, including Zambia, on that. So there is that huge hole. And the deficit, the minister says he will borrow from the markets, treasury, and government bonds. And then his taxes on the mining sector are not transformational in any way. In fact, they are a large favor to the mining sector. Like I stated, that this is a $7-8 billion sector. And what are we getting from it? Literally almost just $500 million. We are not getting equitable benefit from the mining sector. I wonder if we'll be back to supplementary budgets like the minister did. He presented the budget. Midway, he brought another big bill of $2.5 billion for Parliament to approve. I've also looked at the national borrowing plans that he has set for himself. So maybe before we go to that, just speak to his mechanisms to raise this money to support the budget.
Okay, thank you so much, Ambassador. Ambassador, I have to be clear that this budget is unrealistic. This budget was a campaign. And I'll prove to you that this was a campaign. On page one alone, the minister mentioned the word UPND 5 times. On page one alone, page one of his speech, he mentioned the word UPND 5 times. Now, this is not a UPND budget. This is a national budget. And elsewhere, he continued to mention that. But if I take you to his macroeconomic objectives, which is on page 5 of his address, the minister said at E that it is the objective of the UPND government to reduce the fiscal deficit to 2.1% of GDP. Now, we know that the fiscal deficit is a difference between your expenditure and your taxes plus non-tax income, except borrowing. So the borrowing is the one which now plugs the gap, and that is the fiscal deficit. Now, if the target is to reduce fiscal deficit to 2.1% of GDP, you go to the schedule of revenue estimate and its measures. Go to that schedule and go to the financing where he's saying domestic financing and foreign financing. Himself, he writes, domestic financing, 21.6 billion, which is 2.3% of GDP. And then foreign financing, 12.9 billion, which is 1.4% of GDP. Now, 2.3 plus 1.4 is 3.7%. Now, if you are planning to borrow 3.7%, why should you have a target of 2.1%? This is totally unrealistic. It is cheating people. It is, you want to tell people that our targets are so good, but yet your own plan in the same book is showing a different figure, a higher fiscal deficit plan. So clearly, this budget is not realistic. But let's be clear. Dr. Musokotwane wants to get taxes from these companies, small, medium enterprises, which they are owing 84 billion kwacha, and they are saying we'll only pay them 4.6 billion. So, in other words, these MSMEs are going to collapse. All of them, they will collapse, except those which are big companies with bigger capital base. But for the small companies, startups, those which are just expanding, they will collapse. And when they collapse, then you have fewer companies from where you get the taxes. And you're going to find that your tax revenue, income tax, what is his target there? Tax revenue is 165.7 billion. He won't be able to raise this. If he does, if he manages, then he will go to the, to the mobile money operators. These people who are transacting in mobile money. He is going to go to the very, very poor people who are barely surviving, who are doing, the things that should be the least to look at. Because formalized businesses, which gave business to government is not going to pay them anything. Because as I said, and this is paining me, by the way, and this is why I keep referring to it, because government cannot consume services, products and services from companies and fail to pay and begin to plan to pay 4.6 out of 84 billion. I think it's irresponsible on the part of the UPND government. It is insensitive on the part of business. Government should just be able to do better. Government should be able to promote its people. So I think that they will not be able to achieve the tax revenue that they have planned. But what about non-tax revenue? Non-tax revenue, my brother, has been going down ever since this PPP started. The minister said there are 10 PPP projects that have been signed. But the classic one, which I talk about, is the Lusaka-Ndola dual carriageway. Do you know that the toll gate fees that we pay when we are traveling in between Ndola and Lusaka, these fees have stopped going to government. They are now going to the so-called concession. Now, that is what has happened in between Chingola and Chililabombwe. That is what has happened, on the bypass. That bypass from Kafulafuta somewhere there, going into Luansha, and it comes out on the K253.1 dual carriageway. The concessionaire is getting the toll gate fees, and you have all these problems. Then you have to add the problems of Mopani, where Mopani has had 51% shares given away, delivered to a foreign company for nothing. Mopani was 100% owned by the Zambian people, but UPND government comes and takes 51% shares and delivers those shares to a foreign company, so that a foreign company begins to get, begins to control Mopani and get dividends for having committed no resources whatsoever. Now, when you have a government which is inclined to giving away assets in this fashion, you are in trouble. These are the assets from where you draw your benefits, whether you are thinking in terms of tax revenue, sometimes non-tax revenue, because they are vehicles, mopani vehicles pass through these toll gates. And when they pay the toll gates, the toll gate fees are going to a concessionaire. It's chaotic. I don't see government raising this money, this tax revenue, but what I do see is that a lot is going to change. Earlier, Emmanuel, I said, this government has already brought the budget. This budget is on the approval process. Once this budget is approved, the Zambian people will be saying, oh, UPND in 2026 wants to spend 253 billion kwacha. That is it. But then, in the middle, you go and delimit constituencies. Okay? That means you have to increase the budget for elections. That means you have to increase, the budget. It's just chaotic. It's totally chaotic. I am sorry, my brother Emmanuel. We are in big trouble.
You raised a very fundamental issue about just the state of the economy. First of all, our domestic debt in excess of $10 billion. Now, they say the PF borrowed, and the PF have no right to talk about the debt that UPND is accumulating. But here are the numbers. In 2021, the debt was $11.9 billion, the foreign debt, not total public debt, but the foreign debt, which is an index that most indexes follow, whether it's IMF or World Bank. They follow the foreign debt, not total public debt, not domestic debt, or not arrears. They will usually just look at your foreign debt as an indicator or denomination of the health of your economy. Our foreign debt was at $11.9 billion as at September 2021. It's now at $15.7 billion. Our domestic debt was 178 billion kwacha. It's now sitting at 242 billion kwacha. The minister has borrowed something like $4 billion in foreign debt and another 100 billion kwacha in domestic debt. Clearly, the UPND is borrowing probably just in 4 years far faster than any government I have seen. I say so because the PF found a debt of $3.9 billion in 2011. Remember, the debt had come to almost zero. It was at $500 million as at 2008 after the debt write-off. Musokotwane became minister. He borrowed. And by the time MMD was leaving office, he had left the debt at $3.9 billion. The PF picked that debt from $3.9 billion and left it at $11.9 billion. So the PF borrowed about $8 billion. The UPND, just in the last 4 years, have borrowed $4 billion. And if we look at the local debt, they've also just ballooned the debt. When you see targets that there will be economic growth of 6.4%, that you bring down inflation from 16% to 6 to 8%, that is bringing down the fiscal deficit to 2.7%, and that the domestic revenue rise to 22.3% of GDP, which, by the way, our domestic revenue in relation to our GDP is the lowest we've had. I think we've fallen to somewhere, is it 12, 13%? Now he says the ambition is that it will go to 22.3%. Unrealistic. What is your view on the issues of debt, both foreign and local, and these ambitions that Mr. Musokotwane has set for himself?
Okay, thank you so much. That's a very important question, Ambassador. Ambassador, you've put it very correctly. There is absolutely no way UPND cannot increase domestic debt if the borrowing is in the range of 80 billion kwacha per annum. In this particular budget, UPND is going to borrow 106 billion kwacha. Now, this is the borrowing plan, this one. It's a borrowing plan for 2026. Let me read for you something very important regarding the domestic borrowing. And it is on page 2. The minister is saying this dot. Accordingly, gross domestic borrowing for the financial year 2026 is projected at 106 billion. Of this amount, 21.62 billion will go towards financing part of the 2026 budget deficit, with the remaining 84.38 billion being utilized to refinance domestic debt maturities. Now, the minister is saying he's going to borrow 106 billion. And when he borrows the 106 billion, 84.38 billion is going to be used to refinance maturities. In other words, those loans which are going to expire, he is going to pay them back, interest and loans. That is refinancing maturities. Those loans which are coming to a close in 2026, he's going to use this same borrowing to repay them, to refinance them. And the difference between what he's going to borrow and the 84 billion that he will use for refinancing is what is going to support other programs in the budget. But when you go to the budget, Dr. Musokotwane is reporting that he's only borrowing locally 21.6. This is misleading, actually immoral. What he's going to borrow is 106. Now, even if you said, oh, okay, Dr. Musokotwane is going to refinance 84.38, and then you come to his budget speech on page 26, the amount that he has put on domestic debt interest, domestic debt, is 52 billion. Now, 52 billion is not 84 billion. So these documents are not speaking to each other. They aren't speaking to each other, and they aren't consistent. So this is why earlier I said UPND is a very, very treacherous government in terms of document preparation and presentation to the people. The people will be thinking the borrowing is 21 billion. No, it is not 21 billion. The borrowing is in fact 106 billion. So if you borrow such quantums, and the other year they borrowed 84, the other year they had borrowed 80 billion, how can you fail to raise these amounts to these alarming figures of 242 billion? It is very easy for UPND to do that. And in fact, UPND has been able to do that in the 4 years. But you see, because of this smooth talking, they make it impossible for people like you and me to be proud of our debt record. Let me tell you, Ambassador Emmanuel, our debt record was a very good debt record. Here is why. Because even though we borrowed over 10 years, our budget never reached 1 trillion. For the entire 10 years, our budget never reached 1 trillion. Do you know that for only 5 years, UPND is going to spend 1.1 trillion kwacha? Over 5 years, UPND will spend over 1.1 trillion kwacha. But for us, over 10 years, we did not reach 1 trillion. As a matter of fact, if I said, let me compare just the 5 years, in 5 years, we only spent 507 billion kwacha. But in this expenditure of 507 billion, this is where all the borrowing is. All of those things, and there is no PPP. But for UPND, they are spending 1.1 trillion without any significant
In fact,
project.
Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya.
This is very important.
In fact, Honorable
Emmanuel,
Mutotwe Kafwaya,
very
this,
important.
this brings me to a critical issue. The UPND are borrowing and borrowing heavily while condemning the PF debt. They keep on talking about debt reschedule and debt restructure, that this is the milestone is as a result of the debt that the PF borrowed, and therefore they put it as a milestone that they've restructured the debt. Of course, you and I know that they're saying they've restructured up to 90% of the debt. They have not. It's only 49% that has been structured. Just the other day, there was a story from London where a creditor is calling on the Zambian government to resolve the issue and restructure this debt. People are asking, for the PF, they found a debt of $3.9 billion. They left it at $11.9 billion foreign debt. But we say they built schools, they built hospitals, they built roads, they built bridges, they did international airports, they did dams, they did hydro projects such as the Kafwaya Gorge. People are asking, where is the billions the UPND is borrowing going? Please speak to that. I think it is a very confusing lot that if you have a government that's borrowing at such a faster rate, but the billions can be seen. Let me take an example of the IMF debt. The IMF debt is $1.5 billion. It's been disbursed, I think, $1.7 billion. They have another request of $5 billion, which they're looking for. Where is that money? The World Bank gave them $750 million, the highest they've given to any government or country in one single year. In 2022, the World Bank disbursed $750 million. And these are concessional loans. Where is that money? Where are all these borrowings? $4.5 billion. Where has it gone? Then you are not paying your local debt, but you are borrowing more. Where is the money going?
Very important question that, Emmanuel. And in fact, as I was saying, I was also complaining about the amount of money that UPND is going to spend in 5 years. That is over 1.1 trillion kwacha. I wanted this to sink in the minds of our viewers this evening, that for PF, in this same period of 5 years, we spent 507 billion, 507 billion, whereas our friends are going to spend 1.1, in excess of 1.1 trillion. But as you put it, Emmanuel, hospitals, roads and all this, infrastructure, airports, telecommunication towers, and data centers, and all of these things, including the Mongo Kalabo Road, which is literally a bridge throughout. That road is literally a bridge. If you've been to Mongo. But you see, for people who are not very familiar with Western Province, they'll end there. The road that, goes to Sioma also from Mongo, it's just like the Mongo Kalabo Road. It also goes, across the Zambezi River. So you have this infrastructure that was, constructed within this 107. So for the UPND, show us what investments you have made in this particular expenditure of 1.1 trillion. The UPND will be able to show you anything. What they will show you are CDF projects. They will run to CDF projects. As you were asking that question, I was looking for my notes where I documented the achievements that UPND has scored in CDF, as was highlighted by the Minister of Finance as he delivered this budget speech. Now, I have not been able to find it. I could have read them out to you. What the minister did is that he highlighted the achievements for the entire 4 years in this particular budget. Now, you are preparing a budget for only 1 year, which is 2026. Why are you highlighting achievements for the entire period? it is campaign. It is campaign. But as we say, you are highlighting achievements of 3% of your budget. Show us the achievements in the 97% of your budget. Your budget has been expanded, beyond what anybody could ever expect. And you have overtaxed people, and then there's a lot of illicit financial flows. Do you know, Ambassador, that the minister could not even make any reference to illicit financial flows? And I have to tell you, here, as we stand here in 2025, the Financial Intelligence Center has already reported a $3.5 billion of illicit financial flows. That one is equivalent to the amount of borrowing, local borrowing that, or is equivalent to the amount of arrears that should be dismantled, and yet UPND will not dismantle it. So, issues, significant problems that UPND faces, they will never speak them. They will talk about problems that occurred when PF was in power. And those problems can be dwarfed by just a single problem of UPND. This is the financial flows I'm talking about, Emmanuel, when we were in power. The highest amount was 2 billion kwacha. 2 billion kwacha only. But how much is 3.5 billion United States dollars? It is over 8 billion kwacha. Now that is in less than 1 year, okay? We have reported another $3.5 billion. We have had a report of a 60 billion kwacha. We've had a report of a 2.8 billion dollars. We've had a report of 34.5. When you put these amounts together, the amount is so colossal. Can do a lot of wonders if this government was serious, to seal the loopholes and ensure that money does not illegally fly out of this country. Today, government would have been able to dismantle arrears. Today, government should have been able to finance the budget even on a balanced basis. We could have had a situation where government needs not to borrow, but we have to borrow because the money is going out of the country needlessly. We are giving away mines. Somebody from Dubai got Mopani, 51% shares of Mopani. They got it for nothing. We are a careless government. We just need to transform ourselves.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dear viewers, today we are discussing the case of the national budget presented by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Situmbeko Musokotwane. He proposes to spend 253.1 billion in 2025-2026 national budget. And he hopes to raise up to 80% of this money locally, where you have a depressed economy, suffering load shedding, suffering the worst cost of living crisis. Today, there's just been another increment of fuel, and we know the spiral effect to other goods and services, and they're saying they'll bring down inflation. Clearly, with those indicators, it doesn't seem like they'll bring down inflation. You can join us and call. I'm hosting Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. He's Member of Parliament for Lunte in Mporokoso, but it's near more in Luwingu than it is more in Mporokoso, and is a former Minister of Transport and Communication. He's an accountant, auditor by profession, so he's very good at these numbers and understanding and dissecting the matters. Join us in the debate. Make a call. What is your question to Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya? What are your views about the national budget? So the lines will be open just now, and we want to hear your views.
I'm also aware of the electricity problems that Zambia is facing. But despite the problems that we have with the supply of electricity in Zambia, you still supply us with electricity. Again, you would have said, we cannot sacrifice our power when we have shortage. But you still give us. Katima Mlilo town, where I come from here, is supplied with power from Zambia. When you have a power outage here, we also have power outage. But that's the brotherhood we are talking about, the neighborhood we're talking about. And we should only be grateful and continue to exist in this manner. You spoke also about the Vals-Bendola-Lumbumbashi corridor. I want to tell Your Honor that that corridor was developed during our time. I was Permanent Secretary of Works and Transport, and my counterpart here was Judge Sichinga, Dominic.
The power issue, I think, is huge here, and colleagues, we continue to share everything. The issue of power, SC, you know, when you are in a country like mine, when we have passed through a lot of load shedding, people say, oh, so you see, they are selling power to Namibia. This is a town in Namibia, very close to Zambia. We are talking of one-stop border, for example. And if you have one town with blackout, then how do you do 24-hour? But
we must answer one nation. One nation, one people. One Zambia? No. You should be proud of your country. I noticed that the National Anthem was being sung here and some chiefs were seated. Please, we must respect our country. We must be proud of our country. So I shall repeat, one Zambia, one nation, we shall repeat. One Zambia, one nation, exactly one people.
So we urge our citizens that they remain calm. We can see light at the end of the tunnel, and that tunnel is now becoming shorter by the day. As we speak, we now have unprecedented, rains in the last maybe 2 decades. And with those rains, yesterday Cabinet was informed that load shedding is likely to begin to diminish by June 2025. This is because the major water catchment areas of northwestern province into the Barotse, plains, and now also the Kafwaya, flood plains. Water takes 3 months journey to move from Kaleni Hills, from Chavuma, into Victoria Falls, into Kariba. 3 solid months. Water moves very slowly in the plains because it's flat. This water which you see when it rains here in Lusaka, we are going for work at ZNBC. Then you find that water is running fast. It's here in Lusaka. But the water needed to change the electricity situation or the water level situation in the Kariba or Kafwaya Gorge, upper and lower, or Iteji, moves very slow because once it gets to the plains are flat.
Dear viewers and listeners, I'm hosting Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, prolific MP and for Lunte and prolific Member of Parliament. We are discussing the national budget. What are your views? What is your reflection on the national budget? You can call the numbers below, and we are inviting you to comment about the budget. Let me just bring Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya he brought out a key issue on the PPP projects. The UPND is celebrating them as a success. Lusaka Ndola Dual Carriageway, the Ndola Mufulira Sakanya border, the Chingola Chirilabombwe Road, and they want to do other PPs. What have you found wanting with these PPs So, dear colleagues, you can call. The lines are open.
I find this PPP as a very bad example of governing a nation. First and foremost, a public-private partnership, as I understand it, is a project where government invites a private partner who has resources to come and construct an asset and then grant that private partner period to recoup their investment and some profit before that asset can revert to government. But here is the point. For this Lusaka Ndola dual carriageway, government has invited a private partner who came from wherever they came without anything, and then government sourced money from NAPSA and granted that money to their private partner to construct an asset. Now, NAPSA is a government entity. Even though that money is not on the national budget, that money is sitting on NAPSA. Those are people's contributions, and NAPSA is 100% a government entity. Therefore, this is a public-public partnership because the financier is a public entity. The road should be for government. How do you then call this a public-private? When the private guy just in the country with a small with clothes, and then you come and facilitate for that person to construct offices, employ some people using government money. So I don't find that to be a PPP in its sense. But what is worse is that this particular private partner for the UPND government is so favored that as soon as he arrived in Zambia, he was told, start collecting toll fees on the toll gates, which were already constructed by application of the finances of the Zambian people. Remember, the Katuba toll gate, the Manyumbi toll gate, and the Kafwaya toll gate were already constructed by the PF government using Zambian people's money. These toll gates are in operation now. The concessionaire, the private partner for UPND is already getting money from those toll gates before they even finish building the asset, which asset they are deploying money from government through NAPSA. So I'm totally gutted, by this arrangement, and I do think that Zambian people should see through, these very, very battles. Ambassador, you brought some clips. I saw the Minister of Communication. No, is it Minister of Media talking about water, the water levels? I think visit generation. You see, we have been told the inability of our utilities to generate power is because of lack of sufficient water in the reservoirs. Now, the same government has told us that we are sitting with a bumper harvest because of sufficient water. So we have sufficient water on the bumper harvest side, and we have no water on the electricity side. And we are saying this is not true. The issue is that you have been exporting the power and you have now brought in middlemen. In fact, the minister boasted that their policy of introducing middlemen or is it players is paying dividend for our country. But no, you cannot have a middleman to import power from the pool, from the Southern Africa pool, and then that middleman exports, and then you are saying they are adding value. Emmanuel, the question you ask is, if I am the one who has been given an opportunity to import power, I go to Zimbabwe to import power into Zambia, whose infrastructure will I deploy to transmit that power? It is ESCO. Whose infrastructure will I deploy to distribute that power wherever I am selling it? It is ESCO infrastructure. So what value is that middleman adding for the minister to be boasting on the floor of the House that our policies are bearing fruit? There is absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, you are doing so to
Thank
the
you, Honorable. Let me
detriment of
just
the
take some
Zambian
calls. Let me just take some calls. Thank you. I think we have our first caller. Caller, please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Mwamba.
Good evening.
This is Lawrence calling you from Ndola.
Indeed, thank you. Make your contribution.
Good evening, Honorable Kafwaya.
He can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is very sad what is happening in our country. Is a very sad situation. We have a government that does not care for its people. And from PF, they have about anything they are failures. They always refer everything to PF. When are they going to stop talking about PF? Because what people are anxious about is to put the food on the table. They always want to pay PF black. They think that Zambians are gullible. They just want to blindfold Zambians to paint PF black, and yet what they are doing is exactly what used to happen in PF. Especially where capitalism is concerned. This is very sad, and especially about the borrowing. You know, what I've seen, especially the Minister of Finance that we have right now, is incompetent. He's being called doctor, but what I see myself, the man is incompetent. Look at what happened when he took over from Magan. He's the one who borrowed from that figure 500 somewhere there to 3 point something billion. And right now he's still borrowing and painting PF black as the party that has borrowed. Anyway, this is very sad, and this is very bad situation that we are in. And I'm urging the PF
Thank you. Our
leadership.
brother, the line is cutting. Let's take some more calls. He can call back. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening. Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba. My name is Uncle Jay. I'm calling you from the USA. Good evening, Honorable Kafwaya. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this great program. Well, Honorable Kafwaya has actually highlighted a lot of issues, which are actually a failure on the part of this government. First of all, the very PP that he was talking about, that is actually grand corruption on the part of government. But unfortunately, we are living in a country where, the law is no longer at work. And as Zambians, we are just watching from a distance, seeing our country being shredded in this manner. Corruption is not just, the giving out of money or money exchanging hands. It has to do with policy, decisions being made, documents being signed. And this is what has been happening with this government. The kind of corruption that is being perpetrated by this government is nothing by far compared to the corruption that they used to talk about in PF. Theirs is grand corruption, white collar corruption. And it's sad. This is why, if you've observed, this is where we are as a country in terms of development. We cannot have electricity when we boast of a lot of water bodies, in our country. We cannot have, electricity, even when we actually have resources that are able to establish for solar plants. And you have a leader that stands up and says water, takes longer to move from one destination to another. It is so, I don't know how I can just describe this government, it's a sad thing. And those that still have hope in this government, the only, name or how I can best describe such a people is that you are mad. Any person to have hope in this government is actually next to madness, because there is no way that we are actually seeing the things that this government has done and hope that there will be redemption at the end of the day. No, to say 2 plus 2 is going to be 4. So if they are stealing in the name of PPP and expect development, you are crazy. You must be crazy. Let us vote these guys out. Meanwhile, their grandmaster has gone to attend the Freemasonry conference in Scotland. And this is not a joke. And Christians must understand that we are being presided over by a devil worshipper. And this is real and this is serious for the country. Let me end by that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let me take some more calls. I can see there are a lot of calls. Please call in. I can see there are a lot of calls. Just let me take the other calls, Honorable, before we let you answer. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Okay, my name is Gesho. I'm calling you from Lusaka.
Gesho, make your contributions.
Okay, so I think I'll talk about 2 things. Number one, I know you may not want it, but I want to say it. This page is really helping out, but unfortunately, we need more on the ground. I will talk about ourselves first. PF, Ambassador Mwamba, a very learned person. You can agree with me that the pace at which we are moving on, we may not even have a candidate to fill in so that we implement our ideas. Number one, there is a there's a hidden agenda of working things. There's no transparency. That's why I saw my Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya in the morning trying to attend the meeting. Due to its nature, even failed to. And again, within yourselves, you people who have a say, you don't want to agree that only one person can lead. That's the only challenge. And by so doing, UPND is taking advantage to divide you. We'll be here talking about budget. UPND has done this wrong, but there's no solution. It's because there's no leadership in Tonsa Alliance. You have the vision, but who is going to implement it? No one. You are in exile because of fighting for justice, but unfortunately, The people you have left are greed.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. And I'm glad you brought those issues. Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya will attend to that. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Vamunkonge from West London. Valishani va ambassador Kafwaya valishani mkwani.
Mkwai konkanya nipo.
Kwena fyonse fe mwalondolola na fyumfika fe wino sana. Nomba nini nkwato kulira. Wanti fi mulelondolola fyonse file fwae kwa nishi na tubule chipani tuachivika mmabuko yesu. Nomba nini ndeshako ukwipshako kulingana na mano ya nji suggestion. Va Kafwaya va member of parliament aba PF mwebali munganda ya mafunde. Ushe ni state mwa ise shako pantu yonse ndo mfwe fyako bati ba secretary general vaya kukoti pamula ndo wakupokelera ichipani. Nomba kulingana nga mwema members of parliament mwebali mo munchende ni state mwambira mwa sta organize ama what chairmen mwabalanga wachita su uyu wachavinga first mwafunya maboko ya ntungurushi mwafivika nomba kuli interest of the party because constituency yenu limbina ikwatama what chairman abali 20 another constituency mwapanga ipepala mwabalanga ofe bengashita Simon ama what chairman pakwe batilimbi bamyafa ko kupoka ila party na bena bayingisha umulandu ku koti ukuchira okulalolera fe ntungurusha toba shani na bayako please bomfeni kwa resources yenu wike na mwa chairman panchi mubarange fo benga sta graph paper no kuyashitira chavinga Simon interest of the party then mura munchende mu constituency umushaba ama members of parliament kwa ama well wishers abenga funya kandarama monse fe Zambia yonse mupoke ali ama names ama wa chairman bashite Simon chavinga kwimya naye na mukoti party iwerere maboko yenu roleshe nyamano mwakwata ayo yakankala ayo yarefo ko yambyo kubombanisha chipani chiri mu minwe ero mulero ndoro era abantu kwe bati foto arabwerera po ifwe roleshe budget ibapangire roleshe nifo bachitire migoti ni chipani chesu chiri mu minwe please kabyeni kubantu bamitule since bale mistikisha sana kubuteko lomba kabyeni kubantu ama wa chairman babikeni pamo bashitire bachavinga Simon bapoke chipani kompelele mkwani.
Thank you very much. Let me take some more calls. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good afternoon, Honorable Ambassador Mwamba, and the guest that you have, Honorable Kafwaya. My name is Nyangudani. I've got two questions for the Honorable. Number one, I'll look at the leadership crisis that we have today. What solutions that are on the ground that we can see a united front? Because there is no time now. The more we are going to entangle ourselves into leadership crisis, whatever problems that the Zambian people are going through, it will give an upper hand to the other people who are in government. For me, I see that we have got so many adequate leaders among ourselves, but we should ask ourselves to say there's only one leader that can lead these leaders, and then we need to come to that time to put someone into that leadership. Second is, I like what the previous caller said. Our government, they have blindfolded people thinking they are working to fight corruption, but they have engaged in this mode of corruption, which is a white-collar kind of corruption. And for me, what saddened me is we are seeing it. We've seen it in the mines. We've seen it in this dual carriageway. But we are not seeing the people on the ground voicing it out to say, what can we do to stop this kind of corruption from happening? Because what I've noticed is we have got a government who always says, in PF they did this. But have we looked at what they are doing? You have said it in a dual carriage, Kundola. That is the biggest scam that the country has ever gone through. Those toll gates were built using our taxpayers' money. And then today you allow a foreign entity to be collecting money on your behalf. This should come to an end. Thank you, Ambassador Mwamba, and we'll continue listening to your program. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me take Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. Let me take some, just maybe two more before we allow you to respond. Yeah, let me take. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from. Oh, it got cut, but let's just wait. I think let me take two more calls. The callers, at least I think, have been very attentive to our dear viewers. Make your phone call. We are live on Emmanuel Mwamba's profile, on Emmanuel Mwamba's page. We are live on YouTube. We are live on X. We are live then on Smart Eagles. We are live on other pages, Grindstone and other pages. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling from and what's your contribution.
Honorable Kafwaya, this is from Livingston.
Make your contribution.
Hello?
Make your contribution.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mwamba. What I want to talk about is leadership crisis. Especially what transpired today, where the meeting and others. And then not long time ago, provincial officials go at South Africa. So all those have brought in a lot of confusions. Now, what we want is to make progress so that the Zambians to get direction. But if this is going to continue, and I think it is very, very worrisome. Now, right now, we know the people that are causing problems. So that my question actually is going to the vice president of the party, who is the acting president, given Rubind. Why are they not disciplining our probably later confusion, more alliance than PF? Because our interest here, but if we have a power, no matter what happens, they are ready even in which definition to send the power. But why are they not being disciplined? That's the question. So
okay, Wamua, thank you very much. Yeah, let's see if we can take the last call. We take the last call, then we go to Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya to give us answers. Hello, caller. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador Mwamba. My name is K253.1, advocate for industrialization and national development, calling you from Kabwe Central Province.
Thank you, my brother.
Mutotwe Kafwaya mulishani.
Yoba leo mfwa.
Kanabesa. Mwenfu mushandi. Inofo ndefo kulanda nifi. Ichalo cha Zambia from 1991 to Asarilokwe, but we become a democratic country where divergent views must be observed. Now, to the opposition, it's very disappointing that opposition ile moneka kwa chitairiko. When the current government presents the national budget, we hope to see an alternative budget that would come from the opposition. Because once an alternative budget is there, believe me, you ambassador, it will give the opposition to be doing the checks and balances the way they are supposed to be done. Now, even members of parliament, now we don't know if, like the way the budget was presented, it was presented in terms of CDF 156 constituencies at 40 million. Now, if the Bill 7 gets back to Parliament and it goes through, how are we going to make the adjustment in case in terms of the other more additional constituencies beginning September 2026 to December 2026. I really want to appeal to you that as much as we are talking about national development concerning CDF, I think CDF, to my side and on my own behalf, I am seeing certain decisions not being made by the local people, but decisions that are still made at central government, which I feel that the particular department or ministries like health, home affairs, they were supposed to be accounted according to their ministerial standing, because even if it comes under CDF, those assets are accounted through under home affairs, police, health, they will be accounted under the Ministry of Health. So I don't know how we are collaborating and correlating the two. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, I think you've heard the various concerns from our people. Maybe begin to attend, and I hope that you are jotting down questions and answers that are required.
Yes, thank you so much, Ambassador. Ambassador, I would like to appreciate all the callers. I think this is how it should be. People should be able to get interested in what is happening and then also have their say. Even though for the first caller, I didn't quite pick what they were saying, I think on account of bad network. I picked a number of what the subsequent callers did put across. One of them thinks that what I have been able to establish through my reflections on the budget presentation, represents total failure, colossal failure on the part of the UPND government. This is also my view. I think that UPND has totally failed to deliver the promise for the Zambian people. Do you know, Ambassador, that in this budget, UPND has provided 500 million kwacha as electricity fund. Now, this to me means that UPND is going to import electricity in order to cushion the Zambian people in respect of the current crippling load shedding. Now, if UPND can import power in 2026 in order to cushion people, why have they failed to import power in 2025, in 2024, in 2023, and 2022 for the same purpose? My answer to that is that this is a campaign budget. And for the Zambian people, you'll be able to make your judgment after UPND has made this implementation. Somebody thinks that what is happening is grant corruption, and they think this is white-collar crime. But I actually think this is thuggery. Yeah, I think this is gangsterism. I actually don't see any sense in Zambians building toll gates and then you give it to somebody who has just arrived from somewhere you don't even know and say begin to collect toll gates. And this person, for that matter, has not even come with any money to come and construct an asset for you. Has come to get the money from your own institution within your country. I think that is gangsterism. It's total thuggery. I don't see that as white collar. I actually think that is the lowest, the lowest way of cheating people. This is sad, yes, I agree. Gershom also talked about, he talked about, what did he say, we may not have he talks about the possibility that we may not even have a candidate in 2026 because of the disorganization. And in fact, another person, as towards the end, also raises apprehensions regarding this same issue of disorganization in the opposition. But let me assure you, Ambassador and our listeners, I think that we are very civil people. I think we are very civilized people. We know that once the PF elects its preferred leader, all of those who may not be elected will have an obligation to support the one that has been elected, because that is what it means to have the choice of the people. Ambassador, it happens in the wards, it happens in the constituencies, it happens even in local government, it happens at the presidential level. When there is a vacancy, people apply to fill their vacancy, that vacancy according to how they view themselves, to how they feel about their capabilities in terms of understanding these things and being able to deliver development for the people. So when you apply, it doesn't mean you are fighting. Let me be clear. For me, Emmanuel, Brian Mundubire is my brother. Mao Sampa is my brother. Dr. Chirufya is my brother. Monde is my brother. And I do think that if any one of these emerged winner, I will have no problem offering my support. So there is no conflict whatsoever. We are working together. It is just that as things stand, there is a vacancy, and that vacancy has to be filled, and this is why we decided to make the application. So about suing Chavinga using ward chairpersons. Listen, the one who is holding PF illegally is Mao Sampa. It is not Chavinga. In fact, Mao Sampa is sitting on a court judgment which declared him as the lawful president of the Patriotic Front party. So Chavinga is doing all the illegal things he's doing, is making all the illegal proclamations he's making because he has the support of the UPND government. And so the UPND government system of accountability cannot force it on him because what he's doing is to the detriment of the Patriotic Front Party, which they are happy with. So clearly, suing Chavinga is a waste of time. What is required is a reconciliation between the late Edgar Lungu faction of the PF and the one which went with Mao Sampa, and this reconciliation has been in progress, and we have made tremendous progress. So I have to assure you, my friends, that we are all going to subordinate our egos, our ambitions to the greater good. None of us is going to sacrifice the country because of their ego, because of their ambition. And this will apply into Tonse. Tonse will survive. The problems that have occurred are problems that will be discussed, and we are all going to come to a common understanding and appreciation because the suffering of the people cannot, continue. So clearly, Ambassador, we are one and we will remain one, and we will support the Zambian people.
Take some more calls for those that wish to, could have a burning question. This is an opportunity to ask your question before we begin to wind up. We're hosting Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, and we're reviewing the national budget and its implication. This is UPND's last budget. Is there anything they can change the trajectory And that's my question to you, Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, as we are waiting for any other callers. Do you think this budget can change what they failed to achieve in the last 4 years?
Emmanuel, what the Zambian people want is the lower cost of living. What the Zambian people want are jobs. What the Zambian people want are business opportunities. Now, this budget is providing 7.6 billion kwacha for social cash transfer. Now, 7.6 billion kwacha is more than CDF, okay? 7.6 billion kwacha is more than the amount that is going to economic empowerment, which is just 588 million. Now, if you look at this 7.6, what government is telling you is that they have got so many vulnerable people. They have created so much poverty, so much suffering, that they have to provide money more than CDF for social cash transfer. Should that give you hope in terms of whether this government is going to create jobs or not? I don't see the hope. I see a government which is drifting towards providing more social protection for the vulnerable because they are unable to provide meaningful jobs. Do you know, this is exactly what it means when this government provides cash for work. Can you believe that? You mobilize the UPND cadres and you tell them, you sweep the road for 5 days, and after you have swept for 5 days, we come and pay you 60 kwacha per day. Listen, this tells you that you are unable to provide decent jobs for those people, and therefore you have to use the application of taxpayers' money to motivate the people. So I don't see this budget doing anything in as far as creating jobs is concerned. I don't see that. But they are saying there's going to be PPPs. In fact, the minister said 10 PPPs have been signed. They are talking about farmer input support program. And perhaps let me end by answering your question on this point. You see, government is providing farmer input support program worth 9.1 billion kwacha. In other words, government is going to procure fertilizers and seed to distribute to farmers across the country for 9.1 billion kwacha. And then, once the people have used this 9 billion to grow crop, then government is going to buy the crop, strategic food reserve, for only 2.1 billion. Now, tell me what type of thinking this is, where you provide 9 billion for investment, and then once the farmers have produced, you provide less than half to buy the produce. What are you telling farmers? You are telling farmers that you don't expect them to have yield equivalent to the amount of investment, because otherwise the produce should have a higher value. The produce should be, we should be talking about 15 provision for the purchase of produce from farmers. But government is saying, no, we'll only apply 2.1 billion. For me, my interpretation would be that this is why government actually ensures that people are just giving them a dime.
I don't know if I've lost my honorable, but yes, indeed, you were just speaking to the issue of the agricultural sector and what the challenges are. I will be bringing Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, to begin to wind.
I'm also aware of the electricity problems that Zambia is facing. But despite the problems that we have with the supply of electricity in Zambia, you still supply us with electricity. Again, you would have said, we cannot sacrifice our power when we have shortage. But you still give us. Katima Mlilo town, where I come from here, is supplied with power from Zambia. When you have a power outage here, we also have power outage. But that's the brotherhood we are talking about, the neighborhood we're talking about. And we should only be grateful and continue to exist in this manner. You spoke also about the Vals-Bendola-Lumbumbashi corridor. I want to tell Your Honor that that corridor was developed during our time. I was Permanent Secretary of Works and Transport. And my counterpart here was...
We must answer one nation. One nation, one people. One Zambia? No. You should be proud of your country. I noticed that the National Anthem was being sung here and some chiefs were seated. Please, we must respect our country. We must be proud of our country. So I shall repeat, one Zambia, one nation, one people. We shall repeat, one Zambia, one nation, one people. Exactly one people.
Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya, when you saw that the president had gathered chiefs from the breadth and spread of our country, and he was making them sloganeering, I thought that was a bit indecent by the president. He should have respect for our chiefs. They can't be doing sloganeering, and they cannot be, reduced to that just a spectacle we saw. As we begin to wind down, I think give us your last remarks, but I want you to speak to the issue of load shedding. I saw in the budget they've provided solutions. Do you think the solutions will get out of this budget? This crisis that we have, the national energy crisis. Two, the Bill 7 remains, I think, a gathering matter of concern, and we'll see what happens on Thursday. Speak to those issues, then begin to give your last remarks.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Ambassador, this is the second time I'm appearing on this important platform of yours, for which I'm very, very grateful. I think to just comment briefly on load shedding, I think load shedding is going to continue because of the bad policies of the UPND government. The UPND government has introduced middlemen in ZESCO or in the power, the power trade, and this is very, very unfortunate. I also think that their focus on foreigners rather than their own people is also a critical issue, because UPND has been exporting power when there is insufficient power in our country. But exporting power, we'll just tell you that this is exactly who UPND are as a political grouping. Remember, they were exporting mealie meal even when there was no mealie meal. They went to an extent of importing mealie meal from South Africa in order to export to the Congo, when in Zambia mealie meal was going to hit 500 kwacha per 25 kg bag. Now that is UPND. So as they import, they bring middlemen to import electricity using ZESCO infrastructure, import and export using ZESCO infrastructure. This is the DNA of the UPND. And because their DNA is that they support business over people, I don't see this load shedding coming to an end. So clearly, even though they have provided 500 million in this budget, the policy is so bad. This policy of supporting capital over people is so bad that they won't be able to end this load shedding. So it's very unfortunate. Overall, I think that this budget has exposed UPND, because spending over 1.1 trillion in 5 years and having constructed no single major project is actually a scandal. It's a big, big scandal. UPND is exposed. And just one other thing I would like to say, the minister said that next year in 2026, they are going to start constructing the interconnector to the Eastern African community, so that we can also be able to import and export electricity from East Africa as and when there is need to either import or export. Now, in 2024, we provided in the borrowing plan an amount for this same interconnector. Nothing has been done. But that budget has been closed. The question you have to ask is that where has that borrowing gone? If they are only going to start constructing this next year in 2026. It is similar to that amount of money relating to the import of electricity from Mozambique. In fact, the minister said something very unusual, saying that ZESCO was unable to pay the debt. This is why we are bringing middlemen, because when ZESCO goes to import electricity, they tell ZESCO that your reputation is so bad, you came and borrowed electricity and you have not paid, so we won't be able to give you. Listen, that amount has been in the Ministry of Energy. The Ministry of Energy is not ZESCO. It is the government of the Republic of Zambia at central government level, which went and borrowed the power. We, bought the power on Nkongole. And it is the government under PF which did not pay that. But we provided for a total liquidation of that debt via a supplementary budget, which was presented by Dr. Musokotwane to us as members of the National Assembly. And we approved that. And today, that money has not been paid. The budget has been closed. Where has the money gone? This is what we are talking about. These budgets cannot do anything unless the Zambian people become serious in following up these matters and being able to put UPND to account. But how do you do so? There's cyber laws. How do you do so? This government does not want accountability. How do you do so? We now have abductions. People, when they say anything about UPND, you are fearing for abduction. People, when they say anything about UPND, you are fearing to go to jail for hate speech, for all of these nonsensical creations of the UPND government. I am sorry, my older brother. Thank you so much.
Appearance on the national budget, and I think you've given it a good analysis. To our dear viewers, we were hosting Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya. He was giving us insights into this budget. There is going to be huge borrowings, as he has demonstrated through the national borrowing plans that the UPND presented to Parliament, and it's a $10.5 billion a budget. Where will they raise the money from? If key sectors like the mining sector are contributing very little, the burden becomes on you. That's why they are taxing everything and everywhere. It is you to shoulder this burden, and this is what we were discussing. The spread to economic growth, well, we couldn't find it more. It's more like he says, a campaign budget, more to appease people, give more people free money. Like he's saying, CDF, which is supposed to be a development tool, is providing this kind of money, but look at the money that is going to social cash transfer, free money that will be given to our people, an expanded one that doesn't, bring productivity in our economy. So unless you have something else to say, my dear brother, so that we can now close the program.
Well, just to appreciate you for bringing me back to your platform for the second time this year. I think it was a pleasure for me, and also to appreciate your squeezing, as well as the people who participated, but also even those who just listened in, because why are we here is to share the information. So for all of you who took part in this, I just want to say thank you so much, and I salute to you. Thank you.
People have a habit of calling at the last minute. Now more calls are coming. Sorry, callers. We have to end the program, and for those that called earlier, thank you very much for your contributions. Those that wrote text, but the ones calling now, you have to wait until we have another feedback, or you can go to any of our commentary on TikTok, on X, on Facebook, where this podcast was being broadcast, and make your contribution. You still can write. It's not too late. And many of them, I go there and answer the issues. We have a line and a cast that is coming up of many senior leaders that we've lined up, and just look forward to more of this. So God bless you. God bless our country. And shalom, shalom. I see people are saying, but you didn't comment about what happened in the PF today. No, we did comment. Those were our opening remarks. Honorable Mutotwe Kafwaya gave his remarks, and I gave my remarks. I think we attended to that matter, and we attended to it very, very well. So God bless you, and we'll see you. We have just look forward to the many guests that we've lined up. So see you then.
I'm also aware of the electricity problems that Zambia is facing. But despite the problems that we have with the supply of electricity in Zambia, you still supply us with electricity. Again, you would have said, we cannot sacrifice our power when we have shortage. But you still give us. Katima Mlilo town, where I come from here, is supplied with power from Zambia. When you have a power outage,
Amitapendwa ya vintu ifisume vyoza kula kuibukisha Kanate pochimo Wimbo watemenwa katongi Awazunga wajita katongi Nakula kuibukisha kateka Kaibuku muna kapona Neseko siove pamenso Yangu ama umebaya Iyaba ume Iyaba ume Kateka wabantu Twakulira lelo twakulira Shika kukonke milimo shove Ale filamba Fiena minta pengo sile Deti kume moku londolo la vale Lilo wingi
Iseko wingi mwakwete Iseko wingi mwakwete Mwaya Mwende wino tata wesu
Katushi muchi mokege Wali bomba kale Lomba mwatuja tulelilaki Wafyo wachito bwingi Ibisebo wapangiri obwingi Ukuchinjo lusako kumoneko busaka